But right now, Stacy Washington from Stacy on the Right with us. Stacy, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, Cam?
I am good. Thanks for coming on the program.
You gotta be kidding me. Don't thank me for doing fun things.
Thank you for eating chocolate, Stacy.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you for having ice cream
And drinking coffee.
and drinking coffee and going shooting and getting your concealed carry license and speaking up for the right to keep and bear arms. We appreciate all of that.
I do what I can.
All right, so we've got this pastor in St. Louis, Rodney Francis of the Washington Tabernacle Baptist Church, planning a toy gun buyback later this summer. He says, quote, "My wife and I feel we need to do everything we can to not allow our kids to get exposed to this too early. They're going to get exposed to it, but we can protect them early on so they don't get a distorted view of what those can do to the human body. We want to engage the culture of violence, and one of the strategies that we thought we might be able to use is to educate parents about the danger of allowing kids to continue this access to toy guns and playing with toy guns. So you can trade in your toy guns, your swords, for more wholesome toys, Stacy."
So two things.
Yeah.
The first thing, obviously, which of the shooters in any of these school shootings can we trace back to that person playing with toy guns as a child?
Right.
But beyond that, let's get to the heart of the matter. I think I may post a page, maybe a Facebook page or something, so we can find, maybe raise some money to have a buyback program for his common sense. Do you think there's someone out there who might be holding it that would sell it back to us so we could give it back to him?
It might not be anywhere to be found, Stacy.
Well, but it's worth looking into because it would be much more. It would help, wouldn't it? Don't you think him having his common sense back would help more than him buying the toy gun?
Oh, I think it would help a ton. I do. Now listen, and here's the thing. This guy says he doesn't have any violent video games, no gory movies, no toy guns or anything else in his family's home. And look, that's fine. I mean, as a parent myself, I totally get the need to be an active and involved parent. However, I also don't see anything wrong. And again, I'm a father of 5. And when I first got married, my wife had this prohibition with her kids because she came with 2 kids. It was a package deal. And so at first, the attitude was no toy guns, no. And my oldest son, who's now 21, was, I think, 5, however old he was. He was young when the Star Wars movies got rebooted, right?
Yeah.
And he wanted the blasters. And so that's what started it all. And you know what? He's turned out fine. The other kids have turned out fine. And now my wife's actually chilled out to the point where she and my daughter are shooting their BB guns in the yard every weekend.
Yeah, okay. And see, this, I love it. I love this story because it's so similar. I used to be like that. And I have a military background.
Right.
But when we first started, we started having kids, I thought, well, we shouldn't have, guns. They shouldn't play fighting games and so on and so forth. And then I noticed that in the absence of having the actual toy guns, my kids, the oldest is a girl, second is a boy, the 2 older ones would actually just use their hands to form, in the shape of a gun, and they would shoot each other. But they weren't playing games like, let me go into the mall and shoot a bunch of innocent people. They would be, one of them would be the bad guy, and the other one would be the good guy. So the good guy would always get to shoot, and the bad guy would shoot, but he would always miss, and then in the end, the good guy would win. And sometimes the good guy was my daughter, sometimes the good guy was my son. And so my husband was like, well, don't you think they could at least have some toy guns to work with because they're already shooting each other? And I was thinking to myself, what am I doing? I grew up in a household where my dad kept his military sidearm on the dining room table, which really ticked my mom off, not because it was a gun, but because it would scratch the table. And so, I was like, what am I doing? What's going on? He said, I think we're getting like PC. What are we doing? This is not going to hurt. And my kids now have their own BB guns, which they shoot in our yard. And I mean, I don't see why we would stop kids from having that natural desire and playfulness that they have. But they also like to practice good and evil. Kids love to vanquish evil with swords and lightsabers. My kids have those. And also guns. But you just don't see kids doing things like the psychotic stuff that the deranged individuals who shoot up schools and public places. It's not the same thing.
Well, no, but again, it's what you're providing, Stacy, is perspective and context. Whereas it seems like this pastor, again, well-intentioned and well-meaning though he might be, looks at gun and oh, gun bad. No reason for any child to have a cap gun or a blaster or a sword or whatever else. And again, I think your point, and my point, and the point of a lot of parents is that A, we don't need you to tell us how to be parents, and B, you may think that you're preparing your kids for the world. All you're doing is, I think, in a lot of these cases, not even just sheltering. You can make the case, I think, Stacey, that you're actually hindering your kids by failing to teach them about things like good and evil, by failing to let them actually play and use their imagination to sort of figure these things out.
And providing them with a warped sense of reality.
Yeah.
Because that's what, I'm sure you encounter this a lot in your work, defending the Second Amendment and doing a national radio show. You encounter, there's an insane level of idiocy present in our country right now, and I think we can trace it back to, in large part, this idea that we're going to raise our children in a bubble, and then one day we're going to pop the bubble, and out is going to pop this well-balanced, intelligent, free-thinking, astute individual. The only way you become any of those things is to be exposed to varying levels of information and good and evil as a kid, making some decisions on your own, having some failures, but more importantly, understanding that every tool, it does not have an innate sense of good or evil on its own. Guns are tools. They are like spatulas and other instruments that we use for specific purposes. It's the intent of the person that matters the most. And kids who can grasp that are much more ready to deal with America and the modern day era that we live in than kids who think, oh, that's a gun, that's bad. That's a friend of mine who is a mom, and she's a dear person, but she's just loony about this stuff. She calls them projectiles. And I'm like, well, it's not actually the projectile. It's actually the bullet. No, we don't play with any projectiles. I'm like, this is a toy gun. But it's a projectile. I'm like, wow.
Wow.
So it's difficult to get through when the person is there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No.
You can't get through.
So maybe this is a way to get through. Stacey, I don't know if you saw this story. Alexandria, Virginia, where we do our show.
Yeah.
There was a 10-year-old at Douglas MacArthur Elementary School who was arrested because he had a toy gun at school.
The kind with the little orange
With
cap.
a little orange tip. As far
fake looking.
As far as I know, there's nothing to indicate that this kid threatened another student or alleged that this was a real gun and he was going to use it. He just had his toy gun apparently in his backpack. Showed it to a kid on the bus. When they get to school, police are called. He is taken down to juvenile hall. The local NAACP has criticized this. The statement from the local NAACP says, while we're sensitive to and sharing the legitimate safety concerns parents and school officials have over the safety and well-being of our children, this incident clearly shows the adults involved acted without due regard to basic common sense. We expect more from those to whom we entrust our children's future and educational needs. Subjecting any child, and especially an African-American child, to arrest and a possible criminal record over a toy is foolish and insulting to our community.
Well, I will say, and everybody needs to mark this. I don't know what minute we're at the show, but mark it, folks. I'm about to say something good about the NAACP. It may not happen again in this millennium or my lifetime. They're actually right on at this moment. I can't believe I'm saying that, but the NAACP has it right on. They should castigate these people, and people should be having letters placed in their files, and they should be up for re-education. Liberals love to re-educate you when you have wrong thoughts.
Right.
These people need re-education. We're talking about traumatizing a 10-year-old child, and this is really disgusting. My son's 11. I can't imagine them arresting him. I mean, he's so sweet, but he likes to play with guns, toy guns. So I could see my son, saying, oh, this is so cool. My dad got me this from Cabela's. It's a toy cap gun. And sneaking it in his backpack and showing it on the bus. To arrest him after that? I mean, what were they thinking? It's traumatizing the boy, and it's teaching all the other kids who saw this happen don't you dare make a mistake because we'll stick the cops on you. I mean, what a way to start off this kid's not even in middle school yet. That's amazing.
Yeah, no, I know and you know what's so sad is that again, as we talk about in a broader context, you know what we can do to try to repair the damage of some of these communities. Now, look, Alexandria is a pretty safe place. You know, violent crime rate's really low, but we talk about the mistrust, Stacy, in a lot of urban areas between law enforcement and members of the community. And you know, stuff like this. I mean, again, if you're 10 years old, you've been arrested for doing something as innocuous as bringing a gun to school. What kind of relationship are you now going to have with law enforcement? What kind of attitude are you going to have towards law enforcement and towards authority, quite frankly?
Well, and I mean, yeah, because the authority figures, all of them in this instance, failed him miserably.
Yeah.
Because it would have been as simple as pulling him into the counselor's office or whatever office is closest to the front door and just saying, hey, you know what? We don't bring toy guns to school only because we don't want someone to mistake it for a real gun. I'm going to keep this in my office until after school, and you need to pick it up on your way out to the bus and don't bring it back to school, or we'll have to contact your parents. I mean, I'm sure, unless this kid is some juvenile delinquent and there's stuff we don't know, why wouldn't we offer him the opportunity to understand us verbally before we start slapping cuffs on him? I mean, I don't even know how they were able to arrest him. I'm imagining the little 10-year-old wrists inside of the adult-sized cuffs. How did they manage it? And then in the back of a police car to juvenile hall where real, like, bad people are, real bad kids who've done real crimes, he's in with them. I would feel a lawsuit coming on, and my child would certainly not be attending that school anymore.
Yeah, no
but
kidding.
But that's just me. You know, I get radical.
Hey, listen, Stacy, as always, appreciate you coming on the program. Thank you for your time this afternoon, and we'll talk again very soon.
Thank you, Cam. Have a great day.